So today we're going to be looking at primary sources of a historical event. So this week we have been reading about the events of 9/11. So right now we have a photograph up on our screens and it shows two buildings. We have a document here, and we're going to be looking at these photographs and trying to get some information from them as primary sources. Who can tell me right now what a primary source is? Tori?
It's when you look at something and you can make educated guesses about it.
Very good. So you're not relying on someone else's interpretation, but you are looking at something original and you are understanding based on observation. Isabella?
So it's like a first-hand experience?
It's a first-hand experience because it's a photograph. Correct. All right, so the very first image on your screen shows skyscrapers. So since we have read about the 9/11 attacks, what do you think this is an image or photograph of? Killian.
The two twin towers.
Okay. And is anything happening in the photograph? Tristan.
Nope.
Okay, so what do you see in this photograph? The weather.
Blue skies.
Blue skies, okay. Anything else? Isabella.
I see a bunch of buildings next to the twin towers.
Okay. All right. Do we have any indication of what date?
Like 1901?
So we don't have any reason to believe that this was on the day of the attacks, but possibly some other day prior. Okay, so let's look at the caption underneath the photograph. Who would like to read it? Isabella.
World Trade Center, New York,
Photographer.
Carl Heisman.
I'd have to look.
Heisman Library Conference.
Okay. All right, let's scroll down to the second photograph. Okay. What date do we assume that this photograph was taken based on the information we've been reading this week? Tristan?
September 11th, 2001.
Okay. And what do you see happening in the photograph? Tristan?
Twin Towers go boom.
Okay, can you be more specific?
Twin Towers exploding due to crash of airplane.
Okay. Now, on that date, something happened to the towers in addition to being hit by an airplane. So what part of the day do you think this was? Killian?
In the morning.
Okay, why do you think it was in the morning?
Because the skies are blue and looks pretty early, and I think that this is just the beginning of the destruction that happened to the Twin Towers.
Okay, so what eventually happened to these towers on the September 11th? Tori? They fell down. Okay, so this looks like sometime after they were hit, but before they fell. Now, I want you to take a look at the fire. Do you think they were recently hit, or do you think it was burning for a while? Isabella?
I think it was burning for a while.
Okay, and why do you think that?
Because
because it looks like that there's a lot of smoke going out of it.
Okay.
And usually when fire first starts, only a little bit of smoke comes out, but that's a lot of smoke.
Okay. Can you tell if both of the buildings have been hit or if it's just one building at this time? Tristan?
Both of them were hit.
Okay. Can you tell that by the photograph or are you just making an inference?
Because one of the towers is exploding and one of them smoking.
Okay. So the one that's smoking, we can infer that when did that one happen?
Right before the other one, not too long ago.
Okay. All right, do we see anything else in this photograph that gives us clues about what's going on? Tori?
One of the towers have a little hole before the smoke starts coming up.
Okay, where do you see the hole?
It's like right beside a little chip of white, and then
Okay.
there's little chips of white, and there's a little brown spot.
Okay.
It's not quite the same color as the smoke, but it looks like it.
Okay, and what do you think that hole is exactly?
I think it's destruction caused by the fire, which was caused by the airplane.
Okay, and what do you think, Tristan?
I think it's like an office.
Okay. And so maybe we're getting a direct view into the office. Maybe the wall is no longer there. Okay, let's take a look at the next photo. Okay. What do we think is happening in this photo, Isabella?
What I think is happening in this photo is that the twin towers are burning up. I think an inference saying that maybe firefighters came. That's what
Okay, so do you see the towers in the photograph? Okay, so what can we infer happened, Tori?
That the twin towers fell down.
Okay, so they already fell down, so we're possibly not seeing them in the skyline. Okay, is there anything else that we can tell from this photograph, Tristan?
Most of the city was probably destroyed because there's a lot of smoke covering a huge gap in the city.
Okay, so when you mean destroyed, do you mean affected, like the air was affected, or what
Like
do you
most
think?
of the buildings fell down and the air.
Okay, so did you read something about buildings falling down?
Actually, yes. Like most of the like buildings in the area were pretty much destroyed.
I
Okay, Isabella?
don't. So what I see is a lot of destruction. But what I'm wondering is how many people were in the buildings when the twin towers first happened.
Versus how many were able to get out? Okay. All right, let's take a look at the next photograph. Tori?
I think a lot more people died in the building than were able to get out.
Okay. All right, let's take a look at this next photograph. Now, this is an unusual angle. So what do you see happening in this photograph? And I don't know that the person that we can see in this photograph is aware of what's above them. What do you think, Killian?
I think since New York City is always really busy,
Mm-hmm.
somebody was doing an interview with somebody,
Okay.
and they happened to catch the plane going into the towers while that was happening.
Okay. All right, what do you think, Tori?
I think that this was the time the twin towers were being hit.
Okay. All right, what do you think, Isabella?
I can see from the angle that I see one of the airplanes crashing into the twin towers, which is not what we get to see often. So that's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and what do you think, Tristan?
I think the planes are just now crashing into the building, and
this man is most likely leaving a Burger King.
Okay, and why do you think he's leaving a Burger King?
Because he's right in front of the door of a Burger King.
Because there's the sign of a Burger King.
Oh, okay. I missed that.
Detail.
Yeah. Okay. All right, let's look at one more image here. Here's a different photo. What do we see in this photo? Tori.
It's a different way of looking at the airplane crashing into the second twin tower.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this one has a caption. What does the caption say in this photograph? Tristan?
Flight 175 about to crash into the World Trade Center.
Okay. Okay, now here's a different angle. And as I'm looking at the smoke looks different than it did in an earlier photo. In an earlier photo, it looked like there was a lot of orange, but this smoke looks different. What do you think, Tristan?
I think this is like right when the things like crashed, but right before the fire like spread.
Okay. Okay, and what do you think, Tori?
I think this is a while after the twin towers got crashed into by the airplanes, but before they fell down. I think it's just smoldering.
Okay. And did you get a chance to read about what was in the planes that made the fire especially strong?
Oh,
Tristan?
special kind of like airplane fuel.
Well, just fuel in general is actually combustible.
Yeah.
If you recall, the planes had a lot of fuel because they were doing a cross-country flight. So they were going a long ways, and so they had a lot of fuel inside the plane. Isabella?
What we also learned is who planned all of this.
Mm-hmm. Do we see that person in this photo? No. Okay, this is a very famous photo. Does anyone recognize the man who is receiving the information? Tristan.
George W. Bush,
George W. Bush. And do you know who George W. Bush is, Tristan?
president.
He was the president on September 11th of 2001. Does anyone recall what the president was doing when this event happened? Let's see if the caption gives us some information.
Oh,
Okay, Tristan, what do you see?
he was reading school children.
Okay. Why was he reading a book to school children? Does it say? I think he was a guest at the school and he was doing a read aloud at the time. And because it was such an urgent matter, they stopped him in the middle of reading the book to give him some information. Can you assume or can you infer, based on his facial expressions, what he is thinking or feeling at this moment? What do you think, Isabella?
I can infer that he feels like he feels a bit worried about the country, and he feels very scared for the twin towers and all the destruction that might happen.
Okay.
And he's in power.
Right. Is there any other emotion that you see, Tori?
I feel he's thinking about what might happen and thinking that he's got to stop this some way, but he doesn't know how, so he's trying to figure it out.
Okay. As I'm looking at his eyes, I see a deeper emotion looking at his eyes. What do you think, Tristan?
He's pretty surprised. But like he's wondering like, oh shoot, I'm in a school right now.
Does anyone see anger?
No.
To me, he looks anger. He looks angry. He looks like he's concentrating, and it looks like he's angry.
I can kind of see it now.
Okay? He's in a very serious mood, right? Isabella?
I can see on his facial expression that he wants to find out who planned this immediately.
Definitely. All right, we're going to look at one last photo. Okay? The caption says, two women looking upwards with expressions of shock and horror during the September 11th terrorist attack on the World Trade Center, New York City. Okay, what kind of emotions do you see from these women, Isabella?
I see horror, sadness, maybe a little bit confused.
Okay, what do you see, Tristan?
They're pretty shocked and sad.
And what are they doing with their hands? Tristan?
Gasping?
Yeah, it does seem to be like a gesture. So sometimes when you have a really strong emotion, it gets paired with a gesture, and it's kind of an involuntary motion. Tori?
I think they're scared and afraid of what's happening.
All right, does anyone know this next photo where this was taken? Tori?
I think it was taken from like beside the harbor.
Okay, so let's take a look at the caption. So in addition to the Twin Towers, there were other things that were hit on that day. Where was this image taken? Where was this photograph taken at, Tristan?
Probably the airport.
Okay, I could see why you'd think it was an airport. Does anyone remember another location that was hit that we read about, Tori?
The Pentagon.
The Pentagon. Okay, so this does look like the Pentagon, and let's read what the caption says. So this is a video still. So that means there was a videotape, but they captured one single image from the videotape, so it looks like a photograph. A video still shows American Airlines Flight 77 slamming into the western side of the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia.